6 with Walker Buehler. No bourbon today because it's 9 a.m. Walker's flying back to Phoenix. 9 a.m., I guess acceptable depending on what speed you're going at, right? Like if you're on a dude's vacation, it's fine. But like for the sake of this, when you got to fly, I got a game, probably not the best idea, right?
Yeah, it probably wouldn't work out too well for me or for my wife on this flight if we started at 9. But
now, are you a nip on the flight? Are you an airplane bourbon person? Because I know there are people out there that do.
Yeah, I'm a little snotty about it though. It depends on what they have. Some of these places will have Buffalo Trace on the plane, and I'm for sure. But I'm kind of a vodka Sprite guy on the plane.
Got it. Okay. See, I'm typically just like a Diet Coke and let it rip guy on the plane. Like, yeah, I don't know. I got to get a little bit more personality in my flights.
No, well, I will say, I've been fortunate enough we fly first class a decent amount. So on there, it kind of feels like you have to, for all the times that you weren't up there.
I get it. Yeah, you maximize. You think about what you could have done back then, and you got to capitalize now. I get it. We're going to talk a lot of college ball this week. We're going to do the regional weekend so far. We saw who's expected to go 2 in Paul Skeens throw, 123 pitches in a complete game, day 1 of the regional. And I saw you put something out on Twitter, so I definitely want to hit that. Also, just kind of a walk down memory lane at Vandy, because I'm sure we've got a lot of listeners that remember you and Fulmer and that golden era of Vandy pitching, right?
Yep.
And obviously, it's a factory. They keep on working. And Kumar and Leiter, kind of same deal a couple years ago. And then we'll end with Cutters. That's our pitch of the week. Have you been watching a lot of college ball this weekend? It's really exciting, day 1 and 2 of the regional weekend.
Yeah, the regional thing is fun. Obviously we played in 3 of them and came out of all 3 of them. But it's a stressful time. It's a fun time for us. It was probably the most fun time of the year because you're out of school, right? And so at Vandy, what we would do is we would all move dorms. So we would all move into the same dorm pretty much, and you have so much free time and you run around and get to go do stuff that you don't normally do and go to practice and get dinner. And no, it's a fun time of year for sure.
Did you, I'm sure you remember like the Disney bubble that the NBA did during COVID, and like from a fan perspective, that looked like the most fun thing ever. Obviously there's the human element where, you don't have, your family there, or like they came at the tail end if you made it far enough.
Yeah.
But it's just you and your teammates hanging out. And that felt like a travel team's dream or a college kid's dream. You're just hanging out. Like, were you envious when you saw something like the Disney bubble?
No, we had our own. So when we played in Texas in the playoffs in 20, we had the same thing. And we were fortunate they let, our wives or significant others come. And so we had a bunch of kids running around. Everybody's families was there. And I loved it. I know some people had a tough time with it because we were in the same hotel room for, I think it was 29 straight days or something like that. So, but no, we were on the 18th green or 17th green of this golf course. And I was hitting wedges from behind my hotel room and running and getting them. And it was like adult summer camp kind of. I loved it.
Yeah, that's a tough life. What was, I guess we haven't had like the COVID conversation. I really haven't had the COVID conversation with anybody that was in the bigs in 2020. When you were in LA, obviously, you guys were chartering and taking all those, precautions and everything. But when you guys were in LA, what did your day-to-day look like in 20? Was it just get up, hang around the house, go to the ballpark?
Yeah, I don't think it was much different than anyone else's other than I got to leave, right, and go to work for a little while. But no fans, no none of that. It was pretty wild. There at the end in the World Series, they let a certain amount of fans in, which was cool, and to kind of get a little bit. It's hard, man, when there's nobody in there. It's a big part of the energy or kind of the flow of games is dictated on the crowd. And so that was probably the toughest part, is just trying to get kind of going a little bit. I think a big thing for me has always been adrenaline. And, I always tell my wife and my family, like, when I'm going to the field, I want my stomach to like not feel great. Because to me, it's however much of that you feel like you can build up during the day, when it finally flips to adrenaline, it's going to be kind of equal. So it was hard. And I think I honestly think I've always gotten that kind of nervousness and energy from not wanting to embarrass myself in front of a crowd full of people. And so when there's nobody there, it feels like you're kind of the stakes just don't quite feel as high.
Really? So a little bit less, I'm that dude, and a little bit more like, I hope I don't blow it.
Yeah, it's like you'd rather make the big putt in front of the whole country club than hit a great shot on the tee or on the range, right? Like that's kind of what it felt like to me. You can be
Yeah. Hey,
as good as you want, but you're still on the range.
yes. No, I totally understand that, man. And like, you've been on a good Dodger team your entire career. So it's probably easy, to get up for that moment. Obviously speaking for you, but I mean, like you're getting up in front of 30K at Dodger Stadium,
Yeah.
40K at Dodger Stadium. How tough is it when you make these road starts at some of these spots that just are not filling up at all?
Um, yeah, there's something to that. I mean, not many places are going to be Dodger Stadium, so even places that draw well, it still feels like that a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't really know what my career numbers say. I assume that I've been a little better at Dodger Stadium than elsewhere. But there's some certain places that I really like pitching at, just the setup or the look of it or the feeling of it in there. So yeah, there's definitely a little bit of a difference, and some guys love being on the road, and some guys don't. And I don't know what my numbers would say, and somebody could probably embarrass me, but for me, it's kind of the similar deal.
I can tell you the splits right now, but first, let's get into the yeah, here we go. Splits. Let's go across your career, huh? Uh at home, Walker Buehler has a 2.6, on the road a 3.49. How about that? Much better at Dodger Stadium, a run better. Obviously it's easy to get up for a regional start when you're in college, and that is like the biggest moment of the year. And yes, you've been on SEC Network and maybe like ESPNU, ESPN2 at some points during that year, but I mean, this is the one where the baseball community really like zeroes in on college baseball, and that happened this past weekend, and it happened with Paul Skeens at LSU. And Skeens is, if you don't know the book on him, his 123rd pitch of the game was 101. He got a chopping ground ball to second. Like, this is an Air Force transfer that's going to go. He's going to be the first pitcher off the board. He's a freak show, man. 123 pitches, day one of a regional.
Yeah.
Is an interesting business decision. Obviously, it's something cool in a vacuum when you're looking at what LSU did. They won a game. They didn't have to use any of the bullpen in day one of a regional, but this can create like a really tough situation for a lot of people around the Skeens, right?
Yeah. The regional thing, number one, we're out of school, we're all together. It kind of even brings your teams way closer because some teams are out, right? Like there's teams that don't make regionals, and when you're one of the teams that do, that there's privilege to that. And listen, it's the playoffs. You want to start winning. It's just a different atmosphere. So I understand the adrenaline side of it, the wanting to run out there. I tweeted something, I deleted it just because it's probably not really my place. It's, they have coaches and he has agents and all that stuff. But for me, it's not the 123. I threw a complete game in a regional against Oregon in 2014 on 120 whatever pitches. But I think the difference is it was a tie game. I was throwing good. It was our second day. And we didn't have a 5-run lead, right? And also, for me, not having gone through this NIL stuff and the transfer portal stuff and seeing, LSU before the season, people were talking super team, best college baseball team ever. And obviously they have the two special guys that are going 1 and 2. And I'm sure more guys on the team that are going to go high in drafts at some point in their careers. But, it's a 5-run lead and you've kind of got a professional bullpen there, right? In a sense that, nobody really knows how much some of these guys are making, but that kid's going to go and sign for $6.5 or $7 million, and he's throwing balls 100 in the 9th inning with a 5-run lead, and so I think the game situation was kind of the thing, but at the same time, like no matter how good they are, they're not Mariano Rivera coming out of the bullpen there, so I understand. The college coach saying, listen, it's 5 runs, but things can get real weird, and I'd rather have the best pitcher in the country out there. Like, I understand both sides of it. I think at that time, seeing a top 5 pick with a 5-run lead in the 9th at 120 whatever is a lot.
For sure. I think a lot of people had that same thought process, but I also think a lot of people were marveling at who this guy is, and it might
Yeah,
have been their first look at him. Might have been their first look at this kid Brecht at Iowa, who's going to go high in 24, maybe Caglione too. Again, this is like a platform for college baseball that
yeah,
you really don't get until the first week of June, and
right.
it's heightened in the supers, heightened in Omaha. Have you watched Skeens much this year? Have you seen,
Yeah,
clips and all that stuff?
I've seen a lot of highlights. I haven't. It To be honest with you, it's kind of difficult for me to watch a college baseball game. I watch us pretty much every night, and um, I have a tough time watching,
I get it.
in general. But no, I mean the stuff is obviously super impressive. It's kind of interesting that I didn't know who he was before he got to LSU, which I'm sure the scouting community did, but I just don't deep dive the draft the way I used to. But it also shows you the power of the SEC and what it means to play big time college baseball. And I've had a couple conversations with younger guys that are going to transfer or want to transfer. And I'm like, well, why do you want to go to the SEC? And they're like, oh, it looks so much more fun. And number one, that statement is two parts, right? It is more fun. It means more in the South. Like it is what it is. But also they're on TV so much more regularly. And so when you say it looks fun, yeah, it looks fun on TV because you got to be on TV for it to look fun.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, I mean, you obviously had 3 awesome years in the SEC, and I love you going with the motto there. It just means more, right? Did the SEC pay you to do that? Did Sankey slip you a little something?
Didn't need to.
Good to know. No, man, I mean, you were on an incredible Vandy team, and that's like honestly my first glimpse into college baseball. Like that's really when I got those Vandy teams that you were on, man. They were just so much fun to watch, and that was kind of like my introduction to college baseball in earnest. And I watched the shortstop with the flow that was going 1-1
Right.
just be smooth as hell, and that was so cool. And then you run out, a couple guys, and I'm kind of mixing and matching years here, but I remember you, Tyler Beatty, Carson Fulmer. I mean, that was a weekend rotation from hell in the best way. So being around that much talent, what was that like at Vandy when they first started to enter the true, like empire of college baseball?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of all starts with Corbs and him getting there. I think it was 2002 or 3, leading into David Price and Mikey Minor and guys that kind of changed the foundation of what that program could be and could look like. And then leading into the year I committed to Vanderbilt was the first year they went to Omaha with Sonny Gray. And our Saturday guy was SEC Pitcher of the Year that year, Grayson Garvin. And then Taylor Hill was the Sunday guy who played in the big leagues as well. And we had a couple big time hitters. And I don't know if you remember the game. What was his name? Our first baseman hit 3 homers against Oregon State, I think it was.
No, I don't remember that.
West.
I'm blanking.
But we had our first baseman hit 3 homers to send him to Omaha for the first time, and getting to see him there as a kid that had just committed and kind of following it at a different level was really cool for me. And then getting there in 2013, Tyler Beatty had turned down first round money already. We've always had arms, and I think it just kind of raises the expectation when you have that much talent and the floor of what you think we should be able to do. And I think it's kind of funny. We went to Omaha twice, but our best team was probably my freshman year. We went 26-3 in the conference. Something I don't really know if it can be done again, to be honest. I know UT had a good run at it a couple of years ago, but it's just a long season to lose 3 games.
Yeah. Aaron Westlake. That was the name. Got you. Yeah. Aaron Westlake had like an 1100 OPS. I want to say that was like 2011, 2012.
It was 2011.
Yeah. I mean, Corbin created this factory, man. And like, obviously you look at pitching and you hear about the Vandy pitching lab. I guess that takes me to my next question. What is that thing? What is the Harrod Vandy pitching lab? What goes on at Hawkins Field?
I'll tell you that the capability of that is a lot in terms of the camera system that we had and 2 mounds downstairs that we didn't have to water. They had a special dirt, so we threw in there, when we couldn't go outside. And so not missing days is a big thing. But Corbs doesn't like to practice inside, and so I think we probably underutilized it. And I also think that the technology wasn't as clean or as used as it is today. So now they have all the TrackMans and all that kind of stuff down there, and very similar to what we use in the off seasons at home or at the facility that we go to. They just happen to have it on their campus and ready to go at any point. But I think from a pitch design standpoint or trying to figure out a new pitch, especially when you're developing 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, that it's a huge advantage and something that most teams have probably in some way caught up to now. But there is a culture behind going down in the basement and kind of figuring some stuff out. And that's what we did. And yeah, it's a big part of our program.
It's like the common cliche, right? I got to get in the lab and work. Like
right.
you guys got in the lab and worked, which is just freaking hilarious to me. No, man, I mean, if there's one thing that, we've learned talking to you and like our listeners have learned, hearing from you over the last couple of weeks, it's that you're pitching better than most guys on planet Earth. Did that stem from Vandy? Like, obviously, hey, you're a really good pitcher. You're going to know pitching. But did they almost like encourage the mental side of this? Like, hey, you want to know exactly what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, we had Ken Revisit come in every year that I was there and speak to us on the mental side of it. And, a lot of it is culture. I think that kind of learning how to do things mentally, right? If you do that as a conglomerate, then you're going to like press each other on it and make sure that everyone's accountable for it. And I don't think dog eat dog is kind of the right way to describe how that program is. It's very like a family in that, the Corbs' big thing is we don't have rules, we have expectations and kind of holding each other to those, whether it be performance-based, mentally, on the field, off the field, whatever it is. When there are expectations and there are kind of floors of acceptable behavior, it takes that for two 19-year-old kids to get mad at each other and yell at each other and then it be okay, right? Because everyone knows there's a pretty clear right and wrong, and it's less, well, I don't want to do X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, this is what we do here, and all I'm doing is holding you to that. This isn't a personal attack. This is just what it is, and this is what it's going to take for all of us to be successful. And I think that's a huge part of that program and something that probably isn't super achievable in professional baseball. I think good major league teams have accountability and all of that. But at the end of the day, you've got 25 guys in there that are making a lot of money and wear their name on their back and trying to provide for their family. So if their way they believe is going to be more beneficial to them, a lot of times it's difficult to change, that. And it's also, however they have been, it has led them to be, extremely successful to be in the major league. So I think that college baseball time is a super important time in terms of like learning how to be a teammate, trying to toe that line of selfish and selfless and arrogant, which, I think for me, I've always kind of been known as an arrogant guy when I play, and that's fine as long as there's some sort of understanding of my teammates that that's what makes me successful. I care about them being good as well. And I think the learning about pitches and I think that's been a big way for me to try and still be a good teammate, even though I can kind of be a dick,
I totally get that. And like when you say dick on the field, right, it's the way that, you command on the mound, right?
Well, I can be a little abrasive off and make fun of guys and say stuff to people that you probably shouldn't. I know there was a big article that came out my rookie year. I forget what they called me. I didn't even know what the word meant, but there's a story of David Freese. I met him one day, and the second day I walked in, I said, "What's up, you piece of shit?" But that's how I communicate. You know what I mean? And that's how I mess around. It takes people kind of a day or two, or a year or two, or never. But it is what it is, and that's who I am, and that's what makes me comfortable walking into the locker room, right? And if somebody else had needed to say stuff like that to feel comfortable, like I'd be the last one to have an issue with it. So
for sure. No, I totally get that, man. And like, you got to learn that about yourself too, right? You got to learn what makes you confident in every
Right.
situation that you're in. And I'm sure that, you're almost like thrown into the fire when you got to Vandy in that regard. Like, hey, time to grow up quick, right? Time to
Yeah.
figure out how I myself can function best in lockstep with helping the team, reach
Right.
the success that they want to reach. And like the expectations are so ridiculously high. And it sounds like those were set not only by Corbin, but also by, a lot of those players there. And that's a great mentality to have.
Yeah, for sure.